Hi, my name is Lisa Zimmerman-Hollon, and today we'll be learning about Gagne's 9 events of instruction and how to utilize this approach for effective instructional design. Robert Gagne is widely considered to be the foremost researcher and contributor to the systematic approach to instructional design and training. Gagne and those who ascribe to his approach are known as behaviorists, as the focus is on the outcome or behaviors that result from training. In his book, Conditions of Learning, Robert Gagne identified the mental conditions that are necessary for effective learning. In doing so, he developed a 9-step process that detailed each event and how it's required to create optimal conditions for learning. While this model is useful for all types of learning, in this presentation, we'll be focusing on applying the model to training in an adult learning work environment. Utilizing the 9 events of instruction, instructional designers have a sort of checklist they can refer to as they design in order to ensure that all 9 steps are being met. Each step is an important form of communication that aids in the learning process. When each step is completed, learners are much more likely to be engaged and retain the information or skills they're being taught. Gagne's 9 events of instruction provide a step-by-step approach that can help structure training design so that learners get the most from the learning opportunity. We want to start the learning process by gaining the attention of the audience. This change in stimulus lets the learner know that the learning will soon take place. When designing curriculum, this might be the inclusion of a short video on the topic of instruction. It might be an instruction to the facilitator to engage the class by raising the volume of their voice, maybe gesturing, or even doing an icebreaker activity that engages the learner and primes them to begin learning. Something that lets everyone know that the period of waiting for the lesson to start has now come to an end. Next, we need to let learners know what to expect and what's expected of them. We want them to understand what they're about to learn and why. A great way to activate this step is to use a WIFM statement, the "what's in it for me." This makes the learner aware of what they're about to learn and why it's important to their role. This WIFM statement is something as basic as, we're learning about X today because it's going to help you with Y next week, and one day you'll be able to, or maybe need to, use it for Z. When learners are expected to learn something new, we want to match the new information with related information or topics they've likely learned in the past. To accomplish this step, we might want to review previous learning done with the learners and apply it to what they're learning now. We can open up a discussion with the learners to ask if they have any previous experiences with the topic, or if their experience with the problems the training is trying to resolve. We want to make connections between what they're learning and what they already know or have experienced. With this step, we want to present the new information to the learner in an effective manner. When we design, we need to ensure that the information is organized in a logical and easily understood manner. We should use a variety of media styles if possible to keep the learner engaged with the information. We can use various visual cues, verbal instruction, interactive elements built into an e-learning module, gamification, etc. Keeping in mind that various learning styles have different learning needs, we want to address as many of those as possible in how we deliver the information. To help learners not only learn but retain the information they're being provided, we want to make sure to also include alternative approaches that further illustrate the information being conveyed. Effective and engaging ways to accomplish this are through examples, scenarios, infographics, and storytelling. Again, we're finding ways to immerse the learner in the information in various ways to increase retention and recall of the information. We don't want to use these modes just for the sake of using them, however. Examples, scenarios, storytelling, those should all be meaningful and connected to the work the learners will be asked to do once training is complete. At this point in the process, we want to ensure that the learner can demonstrate their knowledge. The way we may ask them to show this will depend on the topic that they're learning. However, if they've been taught a new process or a skill, we should design an opportunity for the learner to demonstrate how to use the information in a simulation or a scenario. That way they can show that they can apply the knowledge situationally. We can also use knowledge checks in this step to have the learner show their knowledge based on questions about the information that they've learned. After a learner demonstrates their knowledge, we want to ensure there's a mechanism for feedback built into the curriculum and reinforce any points as necessary. If we've provided a knowledge check, correct answers should be provided for any questions that were answered incorrectly. If we've designed a simulation, direct coaching can either be built into the content itself to give immediate feedback to the learner, or a facilitator can be given the directions to coach the learner on anything they get incorrect. Feedback should always be clear, concise, and constructive. At the 8th step of Gagne's 9 events of instruction, the learner should be able to complete a test or other kind of a measurement tool to show that they've learned the information or skill effectively. This test should be completed independently and without any help or coaching from the facilitator. To fulfill this step, assessments, questionnaires, simulations, scenarios, etc., could be used to test this new knowledge. These may include a required score to be considered complete with the option to retake if necessary. Feedback can be provided at the end to allow the learner to understand anything they may have gotten incorrect. These assessments can also be used as feedback for a designer to gauge whether or not the information delivery has been effective. If most learners don't do well on assessments, then there's likely an opportunity to edit the content to ensure the information is better delivered. In this final step, learners show they've retained information by transferring the knowledge or skill to the situations where the knowledge is required. Repeated practice is the best way to ensure that learners retain information. When designing training, ample opportunity to practice the skills being learned should be included. It's also helpful to allow learners to build their skills along the way. Having learners recall information learned on day 2 of training in a scenario on day 5 of training helps them recall and subsequently use the information they're learning in a safe practice environment, devoid of potential consequences of getting things wrong on the actual job. Scheduling practice runs into training and having follow-up sessions to debrief and discuss are also helpful tools to include to accomplish retention and transfer of knowledge. Gagne's 9 events of instruction provide a useful approach that helps designers to structure the learning process. Each different level complements the others, and by working through all 9 levels, we can help ensure that our learners fully understand and retain information important to their individual roles. Thanks for watching!